Good afternoon. Welcome to Usability Testing. I hope your week is a good week. It's midweek already. We are approaching the reading week, so I'm sure you're looking forward. I know you've all been very busy. Classes and from other professors that this semester has been a very busy semester. I do know that I have kept you very busy with my teaching, with my classes. I'm teaching 3 classes, but one of them is condensed, so it's teaching 4 classes. I can see and I can appreciate the amount of work that there is, but you will definitely need to be very well equipped when it comes to usability testing by having an opportunity to have a full semester that we only talk about usability testing and how do we do user validation with users. You're very fortunate. I didn't have that luxury. I've learned on my own of doing usability testing. I had some good colleagues that were doing usability testing back then 20 years ago, and I've had a chance to do what you do and observe and be a participant and learn from the process to go to moderate and then do my own reporting. But I started from being an observer and learning about what usability testing was. It's actually fun to spend a full day in a lab to just watch and listen to sessions and people that are participating in the usability testing. So anyhow, how did you? I would hope that at this point everybody has had a chance to do all of their sessions that we are, and if not, then we need to see what has prevented us. But I know there's a bit of a logistic. So yes, I've been getting messages from some people that saying that the Blackboard you will not be. Oh, so maybe the recordings is not possible to upload recordings on the submission board. So if the recordings are available through a share, if there's a Google Drive file or something that you can send me to, that you can share the link, that will be okay too. Or if it's an email, that's okay too. So as long as I receive them, if you're not able to upload through the submission link, then if you send me them by email, that's also too. Or if it's a link to a share file, great. If it's a link to a Google Drive and email, then that's perfect. So thank you, Anya. That's perfectly fine. Yes, the file with Blackboard for submissions. So I would hope at this point you've all done your sessions, you've all had a chance to moderate 1, 2 of the sessions for each of your team. And I do know it's a lot of work. There's a lot of scheduling. There's a lot of helping each other and helping the teams and being participants with other teams. So I really, really want to thank everybody to have been involved and engaged and supportive of each other. It's very appreciative for us, for me, and for the school, and for everybody. And this is, I know it means a lot of work, extra work to work that you already have a full plate. So I really, really appreciate you doing this. So I want to hear, how was the experience? How was the overall experience of doing your 6, your 4, your 6? Hopefully you've all done the 6 sessions with as moderator or as observers. So who would like to share their experience? How was the experience?
Hi, Yves.
Hey, Mariam. I had a feeling you would be the first one to come. Everybody has been very engaged, but I know you've particularly been very engaged too. So yes, I'm listening. Share with us.
So overall, I feel like I learned a lot more than I learned just from like our lectures so far. Like it
Yeah,
was exponential learning. And then, so compared to my first session where I didn't have my like webcam and
yeah.
stuff on, I was like feeling really confident. But with my second one, I found myself like stuttering a lot and like just like feeling like really awkward at times because I would like see myself in the webcam and just be like, ah. And I feel like if we were doing that in person, you wouldn't really be looking at yourself in a mirror and keep getting distracted by like, oh my God, there's something on my face or something like, or even just looking at yourself, you know? So
Yes.
it was really trippy. So I feel like it ended up making me like stutter and just not feel as confident as the first one.
Very valid point. So, then part of me would say, okay, if the technology or if this is actually having a negative impact on your delivery as a moderator, then I think, okay, how important is being on cam versus a good delivery and being good as a moderator? I think it's probably more important to be feeling good, right? Feeling good, yourself good about moderation. Then I would say if the cam makes someone uncomfortable to the point that it's affecting your moderation, then I would say don't put the
Oh, okay, that's really good
cam.
to know.
Yeah, but then because to your point though, when you are doing moderation, when you're moderating in person, then you don't see yourself on the giant screen, right? You're not intimidated by yourself when you see yourself on the screen. It's not as outwork as online. But then I don't know how the participant feels of not seeing you on screen. But really, does it really matter that they don't see you? And maybe the answer is it doesn't, because they're focusing online on the screen. They don't
Yeah.
even see you, right? So maybe what you may want to do,
Hmm.
and I don't know if that's what you did, maybe you open up, because if you're remote, you open up on cam and you
Yeah.
say, will they see you once? But then when the session starts, then you move
Yeah.
on. Then you're no
Yeah, I was
longer on cam.
thinking
Is that
that
what you did?
too. Because it's like when you're just saying hi, then it's like not a big deal, but when it's like actually like taking away from the process. So yeah,
Mhm.
that could be a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's a compromise, right? At least they get to see you and they go, oh, okay, they connect with you, and then maybe for some people it'll make them more comfortable, and then you disappear on them, and then the cam is on them, and then they are paying attention to what is happening on screen. So yeah, but usability testing is really about doing. You can hear about it in class and think that it's going to happen in a certain way, but then it's not until you get to it and get until the seat of a moderator, and it can be very stressful. So I would say I think everybody was very nervous at the beginning. I would say probably for the first session, um, right? It didn't feel right. It didn't feel very comfortable unless you had done it before. But I think, would that be a fair assessment or a fair observation? Some people said, my God, it was nerve wracking. Yes, because you're being evaluated. There's me, but then you have to remind yourself, and not to make it even more stressful, when you're going to do these sessions, you're probably going to have a client. You are going to have a customer. You're going to have a client who's going to be behind a mirror, who's going to be assessing you, right? So you always have to be very professional. But they will be evaluating your work. They will be looking at you as a moderator. They will be looking at the participant, and you'll have a participant who will be assessing you as well as a moderator. So you just have to be very clear on what it is that you're trying to do, and be confident and make people comfortable, and I think it will come naturally, but it's practice. The more you practice, the better you will get. I had seen there were some moderator that I have seen in some of the sessions that had done it before, and I could tell if someone has done it once, twice, or three, or with practice you're going to be very, very more comfortable. What's going to happen as well is, as you do it more, you're going to be able to forget about the mechanic and really be able to focus on the participant and what is happening in the session. And you're not going to feel that you have to think about what your next thing is, what the next line, what the next step is. And you're not going to be thinking about, oh, where do I go and how do I make sure that I do this? It will come. It will come. So you forget about what's coming, focusing on what happened. So I don't know if you notice, I gave feedback. I gave a lot of feedback about what I had seen in session and what has happened in some sessions, and I share that feedback with you through the course message. I think on the weekend, and then I gave for pretty much every session that I've done. I debriefed, and then I went into some details of what maybe have happened in the session. And I felt that sometime in some of the sessions, uh, there were things that not too many people in the team had noticed, and it's not a critique. but it would be normal because I have the experience that I was really focusing on what was happening and what the person was saying, and also I was aware of where maybe I jumped in and I should have not jumped in when I was pausing, and then I would make some comments. But I don't know if everybody had noticed that level of detail that I may have actually even seen in sessions. But that you will get to this when you are very comfortable, and you will think this is where it starts to be fun, because it feels natural how you can really go into the psychology, and this is what will bring you all the insights as a designer or as a UX specialist to feel more confident in the solutions that you'll bring forward, because you'll remember what you will have seen, you'll remember what you will have learned, and then some things you can take that you've learned to any product or any industry and anticipate that this might be a challenge. Then you bring that to the design team in your solution. Then you do testing, and you will validate that your solutions are probably the right solution, but there's always something. There is always something. Did we have any sessions? Did you have any sessions that there was no feedback, or you didn't see anything? Was there any in one of your sessions that everything was perfectly smooth and fine and there were absolutely no obstacles? Wow. Okay. Rarely will that happen. Really, rarely will that happen. So it could be that we were getting trained. We were also getting trained as participant on the products. Maybe there was that. I don't know. Maybe not. I would say they're always going to have something. But do you feel, though, that after a certain number of sessions that some things were repeated? Did we see patterns? Good. Do we feel that there were still a lot of things coming up? Then we could have done more than 6 sessions, and we would have probably discovered items, maybe not as big items, or maybe big items. Do we feel that we would have discovered more as well with having done more users? Or we feel that we have a good sense of what is happening with each of your sites? Okay, so good. Yeah, so if you remember, we said 3 to 5 user per user group. So we've done 6. So I would say we were probably very homogeneous because we were very similar profile when you think of us as a team. So perhaps after 6, we were seeing patterns and things were converging to. But then when we are going to do the big project, hopefully we're going to see. I don't remember how many people we have to do, how many sessions we have to do. Hopefully we're going to see similar patterns, but really you will see after 3 and 4 and 5, like after 3 of the same profile, like your new people that have never been to McCab website, you're going to start seeing patterns. And the same thing with the people that have had maybe an existing account with Good Food. You're going to see patterns at through 3 and 5, and then you can feel that F5 is probably usually the good amount. Okay, so do we feel at this point, how do we feel about all of the data that we have? Do we feel we have a lot of data? Okay, good, we feel good. Do we feel that we have enough data to work with? Okay. Okay, good. Do we feel we have too much data? Do we feel overwhelmed? Awesome. Good. Okay, good. So, well, you may do sessions with 10, 15, 20 usability sessions. So you will feel very, very overwhelmed and not really know where to begin with. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So was there something that, before we start talking about today, was there something that you found a big challenge? What was your biggest challenge? Or what was one of your biggest challenge in facilitating or observing outside of logistic? Was there a challenge, or what was the biggest challenge for some of you? if there was a big challenge.
Hi, Yves. I wouldn't say it's a challenge, but one thing I found was hard to keep up with was putting in the timestamps when recording the comments, because it's like
Yeah.
you're trying to go through every part quickly, but then as they're moving through the site, you want to keep up with like the timestamp and where they're moving, like where they're navigating as well.
Yes, it's a lot of things to think about, right? Do we feel that we've managed to do all of our scenarios in the half hour, or do we feel that we've actually exceeded half hour and we went more towards the hour?
Some of them went by quickly, and some of them kind of went within like 20 minutes, so just under half hour. But when it was more than one task, I would say it did meet the like half hour mark.
Did most of you had a chance to do a run through before you did your first sessions to test the length of the scenario and as within just your team? Oh, we found that this exercise was somehow part of doing a dry run to understand our flow, timing, timestamp, how we moderate, so that now we will probably be better, we feel better and more confident in the 5 scenarios that can all fit in 1 hour. Okay, so yeah, timing is very, very important because we just have an hour, but we don't really have an hour of scenarios. I think we have about 40 minutes. I'm reading some of the conversations. So Elizabeth and Destiny, you also said, I felt that even if I was being careful with my wording, sometimes I still felt that I was leading the participant. So yes, that's the most difficult piece of doing usability testing is not leading people. I would say, unfortunately, this takes time and experience, but even with experience, you still have to pick your words, and I do it. And you saw me in some of your sessions. I think I may have led some people too. It's really, really hard to sometimes not lead, but this is why, as a rule, sometimes it's better to be silent and not say anything, and then you let them do. Then you come back when they say I'm done, but you know they're not done, or they're done, but there was something you want to go back. Then you can go back and say, so you did this. What do you mean by this? What happened here? So sometimes that's better than you just let them do and let them go unless they get really, really stuck. If someone is really stuck, then this is where you come in, you jump in and say, I can see that you're silent. What is happening? What is going through your mind? Or they will say, right? They will say, how do I get out? How do I do? Then you know if you can help them or not help them. But that's going to be the most difficult part. It's choosing the words so that you don't lead them. You're not going to lead them through the wrong words. I will make a note. I have found more script or tips on what to say, what not to say. I think it's called what a psychologist can and what a psychologist cannot say to a client. There is some good parallel with what we do. I'm going to add it so that you guys can have a reference to it for our subsequent assignment. So load the tips. And also I think I found some tips on how for the observers. I'm going to make that available so that you guys can benefit from it. I didn't do it at the because there was a lot. Like I didn't want to overwhelm you. There's a lot of material in this class, and it was still. You get to a point you have to do it. So we've done it now. We've experienced. So I think it'll be easier to be able to now take another little piece and then say yes, okay, now I know because you've done it. But at some point you get information overloaded. So I wanted to manage this, but I'll add a few more tips. I think there's even a deck that the other teacher had put together for conduct sessions that I think I'm going to post to so that you can now a lot of it will make more sense because you've done. So you will feel better about it. Yes, so Elizabeth said, I thought it was difficult to encourage participants to give more information without disclosing how to complete the task. Yes, the tips will help you to do this. So, but it's okay to say, so tell me more about this. Tell me more. Or what are you thinking about? What are you looking at? What is happening now? Explain more what you mean by this, and then without necessarily guiding them. Yes, but it's not easy. It's not easy. Yes. So Huang said yes. She almost spit out what I want Jade to do step by step. It's really, really hard not to wanting to do this for him and them. Unfortunately, you have to let them do it, and you will find that your client will feel the same in the back behind the wall. So when you, at the end of the session, you go and say, Mr. Client, do you have any questions? They may actually have a lot of things they want you to do. So you're going to need to, I can do all of what you want me to do because we're already over time. And also, I don't think we need to do this because of this, but I will explain to you later. But yes, I can do this and I can ask this. But if you're an observer and you're behind a wall, some people will say, oh my God, what a stupid user. Like, you're going to hear this, and that is very upsetting and very offensive. There are no stupid user, they're just bad design, right? But sometimes you feel like we're not comfortable with silence. We're not comfortable with having to wait and go at a pace that someone has chosen for us. You have to do as a moderator. What I would do is, in that cases, you really, if someone is not able to do, it's because there's really a challenge, right? And I've seen some big challenges with some of the sites. All sites had challenges. So I've seen all the sites, all sites had challenges. Some worse than others. And then it's because of bad choices, of design choices, not because of bad participants. Being a participant is another challenge to me. There are thoughts that I need time to think thoroughly and tend to keep them for myself. So when being tested, I feel like, but you're not being tested, right? So it's good that you're a participant because you know how they feel. Remind yourself about what it is of being a participant so that you can be, you can have compassion for them and see you're not being tested. Take your time and tell me what you think, but we're not testing you. So when being tested, I feel like I was constantly rushed to speak out loud, and sometimes they don't come out naturally. Yes, think loud is not a natural thing. Absolutely. It's not. You have to explain and you have to remind them. I have seen sessions when the person was not really talking, and then I did say, hey, what are you thinking of? Tell me what is happening right now. What are you looking at? And then you listen for the answer, and then it just reminds them. But you need balance too, right? So if you notice that a participant is maybe more quiet, then maybe you allow them to have maybe more time to be quiet, but you still need to make sure that you get what you need. But it's hard to always have some always on. It's impossible. I don't think people can be, but you give them time to think, and then you can say, what are you thinking about? What are you looking at? If you see they're in front of something, then you can say, okay, great. So what are you, tell me what you're thinking about? Then you go, oh yeah, I have to think loud. So you have to be aware of the participants, and you adapt as a moderator to the participant to make them feel comfortable. But yes, it's awkward. Think aloud is very awkward. Like juggling two balls and multitasking. Yes, because yes, you have to say, but you're still thinking. Absolutely. So this is where sometimes the people will need more time. But anyhow, this is usability testing. It's very, very powerful, and it becomes fun when you're comfortable. It's like anything. It's like riding a bicycle. The first time you rode a bicycle, did you have fun? Did you fall? Few injuries. First time you went swimming. The first time you went jogging. Like the first time you do a sport, it's never fun. But it becomes fun when you are, it will be practice, and you will do more practice as well. Good, awesome. Really, really happy. Is there anything else? Anything else that anybody wants to share? Now we're going to move on to how do we do analysis of all of this data? Where do we even begin when we think of doing analysis? But before I do this, is there anything from the observer? Is there something on the observer side that you guys want to share? Observer, what has happened to you? Or what it was like? there should be a lot of notes on the observer. So if there are not a lot of notes, then maybe then we haven't talked enough about what should the observer do, which I think we haven't spent much time on the observer. We spent a lot more time about moderation. We haven't necessarily detailed out observer, which is something that I will be sharing tips as well on that I will be posting for our next time that we do observation. The observer plays a very, very important role, but I think some of the moderators were also taking notes. I've seen moderators that were taking notes, right? So it was a mix of the moderator and the observer taking notes. Soon you will find out if there was enough note taken or not, because you will know if you have enough data or if you remember the sessions and what has happened or not. So, okay, I would say then this week, what do we have? So we are going to do analysis and reporting usability testing findings. If you remember, we are in analyze data. We're the almost final step. This is a very critical step because this is where we elevate ourselves. We're going to step up and we are going to look at what has happened. What did we learn? Right now, it probably feels there's a lot of data, or we've said it's okay. It's a decent number of data. We have enough data. It's a decent number of data. I can see that my collaborator is frozen. Hopefully you can hear me, which I'm sure you do. We have a lot of data, but we have to make sense of the data and what has happened. And what is problematic, what is not so problematic, what should we do about specific findings and specific data that we found, and then maybe is there something beyond or overall that we need to think about that is consistent, that is beyond what you've seen or what you may have heard, that maybe there's a bigger problem too that we need to think about ourselves. This is what we are going to do, and how do we do this? There are multiple ways of doing it. There's not one way, but there are ways that we can use, and that's what we're going to be discussing. I have 2 readings for this week. One of them is called the Rainbow Spreadsheet. So, and I will invite you to go through the readings on your own. And then the other one is how do we do usability testing data analysis. But I have a presentation, a deck that I will be sharing with you. And then we have to do in class. So now you have submitted all of your raw data, and thank you for doing so. I really look forward. So I will look after this class. I will look at the raw data and what you've submitted to me. But you will have to look at all of your raw data, and you're going to have to do a summary. And that is, there's a 15 points. So we have to do this in class today and tomorrow. What did we see? What did we observe? What did we find? What does it mean as well? What does this mean? So, for example, there's a participant for a specific site that had an issue on understanding the difference between in-store pickup or store shipping, I think, or ship from store pickup, or even out of stock. There were like some challenges around those challenges. So I think there's material to either solution or either explore further if you were with the client. But what does this mean? I think there was a point of failure too. So what should be done about it? And then are there clips or quotes or anything? So most of you have done recording. There are teams that have not seen moderation. So I will look and find the recording to be able to see so that I can see everybody has been moderating once. But one way of using recording is that you may want to go back, but rarely will you sit through all the recording because that's a long process. I would say rarely and probably never will you do. But you may want to pull some clips. And maybe the way that you would do this is the observer would have made note of a specific day or a specific session with a specific participant at a specific time. And say, there's a very good clip here that shows the challenge about these 2 options on, let's say, Longe and McCaddy website for music when it comes to ship from home or ship from store pickup or pickup store delivery and the out of stock. Maybe that's a very good click. So you would note that moment so you can go back to that click. That day, that participant to the click. And then you do a video or a montage, a collage that shows all the key things that have happened, so that if someone has not been in any of the session, they can quickly get a feel for what happened. So you would have little clips that one way. How often do we do that? Not very often. How expensive are the clip? They can be very expensive. But typically, if you do your research with a firm and you use a lab, a facility like Phase 5, which is the name of a lab that I share with you, they will give you the clip, but they will not give you the montage or the collage. You will have to do it yourself, but they will give you the video. So you can then extract the clips that you want and produce your own video as well. Maybe there's some quotes. Maybe you actually have specific quotes that someone has said. Actually, some people have said in quotes, I would never sign up. I would actually leave. I would abandon. I would not sign up. There were a few of these quotes. So this is a good example of something that the observer would have noted, or you would have noted as well. So you have words by words, quotes, user quotes that you could actually put in your report as well. So I have given you a template of a report a while ago. Next assignment, which is to submit the final report of what has happened. But for today and tomorrow, and then it will be your final report, you will have to look at together as a team and think about what has happened. What did we find? What did we observe overall? And maybe you're gonna take a user goal. So now we're going into how do we go about doing this kind of analysis. So the first high-level analysis, you may want to take the first scenario, and then you're going to take shopping for guitar. Then as a team, you're going to say shopping for guitar. Then you're going to go from the first step. Or maybe you're going to say, what have people tell us that they would actually expect to be able to do for shopping for guitar before we actually took them to the website? You go back to your script moderator, and you say the first question we say, what would you do or why would you go? And then you would list this. If you ask a question, you have to report on it, right? What have you learned for what people expect? What have you learned from how often people are actually going online? How often do I ask and you don't report? Then you wasted time. Okay, so you have to go back to the very, very beginning. You don't need to go back to the consent form, but you need to go back to first questions. We ask them, what has happened? Participant 1, participant 2, participant 3, participant 4. Okay, or so that's one way. Or you take participant by participants. Then you take participant 1. What did he or she tell us about this answer? Great. Then you scenario, buy a guitar. And what happened? What have they done? They went to shop, they found shop, and then we found that, someone, like this participant said, I don't know that I can actually even find a cheap guitar. I can see the filter, they can see the filter, they were hidden. So you start really going with what has happened. And then you move on to your next step. Then they went to add to my list. They went to the product page. Then what was happened on the product page? So you can take screen page by page per participant and outline what has happened to the end of that call. So you could take that participant and stay with that participant and then go back to scenario number 2 and see what has happened page by page. What maybe she said, what maybe have gone wrong, what maybe have gone right. Then you do that for all your participants. That's one way. The other way that you can do is you take the first question that we ask is, how often do you go online? The opening statement, like the screening, what participant 1 said, what participant 2 said, what participant 3 said, what participant 4 said. You can do that. Then you move scenario 1, browse guitar. What happens when the moment that they click? Actually, quick access, no issue to get access, found or did not find. Maybe she went searching, search, what happened in the search experience? Then you go next screen, participant 1, participant 2 as well. That's one way to do it. But you have to make sure though that you don't lose the continuity of a participant in their bad experience if there was a bad experience, so that it's not just a screen by screen exercise, but it's an experience exercise too. But that's one way to do it as well. Then if you do that all for your participant, then you're going to start to be able to see the patterns that have happened. Maybe everybody had a challenge with finding the guitar, the acoustic guitar. Maybe everybody had a challenge not seeing the filter because they were open, but maybe just one person has, or maybe 2 or 3. There's no other way to do this. This is the only way. So it sounds like very long. It's going to be long for your first full run from your screening to your all scenario. It will take longer. What's going to happen with the participant number 2 is you probably will list what was unique to participant number 2 or not, maybe not applicable as well. That has happened, but you've already went through a first. And so maybe participant 2 had a challenge, did not have a challenge at the cart. They actually just went and checked out. They did not even make comments about shipping or not shipping. They just went through checkout. They didn't like the pop-up. The participant before hated it too. But then when she got to her cart, then she understood the stock, not on stock. There was no issue. Or perhaps it was something unique has happened there too. And everybody else too. Like, you have no other way than going through, and then as a team, you can do some of it individually if you want, and then you come back if you want. Like, that's also an option, but this is what we're going to do. So what you need to do, though, I would say this is the very detail to take you to the report, but for today, at the minimum, definitely what we need to do is you need to put together a summary memo of the key findings. So what have you found? What has happened? What have we found from all of our sessions? So it's like you're giving me a report of what has happened when it comes to your website, when it comes to the scenarios, when it comes to what you have found for issues, the type of issues, and maybe the magnitude of the issues that you found, just so that I have a bit of a sense of what happened in all of those, all of the details. But you need to be able to step back. I feel like now at this point, you guys need to have a team. Perhaps you already had the debrief. Perhaps you've already done this in the assignment that you sent me. I haven't seen it. If you've done that, then it has to be, I need to find it, and then I can mark you. But if you haven't, then this is the time to do it. So, and that is 15 points out of the 135 points, I think. So this, you will need to submit as well. And then you will have to, for those 15 points, and I would say I give you until end of day tomorrow, if that is enough. If not, then I can give you end of day until end of day of Friday or midnight, if that is a better option. The format is just a Word document or PDF, just a PDF Word format that gives me enough info that I will see that you've had that debrief and you've had the conversation as a team to talk about what has happened. Say the website is perfect and everything is good and there's no issue. Like, I need to know for what has happened at the scenario level, and if it has happened for many or a few, but I need to have a good understanding of how is the site performing when it comes to those scenarios that you found, and what has happened with some of the scenario or some of the top problems. You may want to say, we found 3 major problems with good food. Then we found but the 3 major problems that with good food that was a constant consistent are the following. Then we found these little things, but we will detail it more in the report. But I need to have a bit of a story of what has happened. And each you may make a separate. No, you can make one submission. So tomorrow there'll be time to work just on this, and then tomorrow you can start working on the more details as well for your final report. Okay, so let's continue. Now the final report is due next week, March 4th, midnight, and for the final report, we can talk more about the final report. But right now, what you should be focusing on is you have to go full blown now about what has happened. The first round will take longer, but I will tell you, it will be quicker as you go participant 2, participant 3, participant 4, because those things will repeat. Okay? So let's go through some of the material we have until 25 or 30. I've never known if it's 5 minutes. Let me just look at my calendar and then I can tell you clearly. Okay, so we are here until 125, so we still have about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. So for this week, so final report, very, very important, and then tomorrow we can do lab, and let me just share my some elements in some bits of the today's lesson, today's lecture. So there's a full deck for today's lesson that will give you some insights on how do we go about analysis. So let me just download this. Okay, I have it here. Analyzing, downloads. My web is very, very slow. My apology. Okay, that time. So make sure you do go through the material and the 2 readings. You can use the rainbow. It's very, very detailed, very advanced. Once you go through the rainbow, you'll understand what the rainbow means. But there isn't one solution. And it will probably going to feel, where do we start? You just start. Don't ask yourself too much question. Just go. Just start. You jump in it. And then you may want to start with the first question from the screener questions, participant 1, and then this is your starting point. You will see you're going to be adding into. At some point, it will all make sense, but trying to spend too much will slow you down. You just have to run. It's like if I would have told you to wait until you feel perfect to do moderation, you would probably still be thinking about it. All right. So, okay. So analysis, we were formative. We were trying to understand how our product is doing. Analysis. Let's look at what's required after you complete all your session. So you have your video, you have your recording, your video you've already sent me. I look forward to seeing the material. I will do this, but tomorrow you're gonna have a chance to go in details. And we're going to use the 2 hours tomorrow to just that, and I'll be there in support. Make sure you have all your notes, so that's already done. Now you can do your debrief and do a quick summary for myself. Don't spend days on your summary, but if you need to, obviously you're probably going to need to start doing a bit of analysis on your summary. I'm happy to see smiling face. You finally finished. Oh, okay, yay! Yes, you have. But now you're ready, feel exhausted. This is what I was saying. Are you exhausted? Do you feel like, oh my God. So you want to make sense. What did we see? What happens? And this is why I said, start thinking about, what did we see? What does it mean? What happened? Maybe some of you say, I don't really know what happens. I don't really know how bad it is. It will come. Trust me, it will come. I've always felt after every usability testing, often I was go like, do I have enough, or do I feel that there's really something substantial? And you'll be amazed that often there's very substantial. And hopefully I'll be able to point some of that to you and say, what do you think this? This is probably this. And you may go back. This is part of the process, right? What did we see? So in this step, observe. So have a meeting. Tomorrow we'll have a chance to do it, but we can have a meeting and say, what did we find? So perhaps between now and tomorrow, you want to start thinking about, what have I seen? And maybe you want to make your own notes. Maybe each one of you want to start saying, going through, what have I seen? Maybe you want to go back and do your first little summary of, what have I noticed? And go from memory. Try to go from memory from your note. What have I noticed? And then you start making notes. Without going through all your notes, you could probably come up with a list at the top of your key handle issues. If you remember when you asked the participant, how did it go? Some participants said, I registered. Someone said, I was really confused with stock, out of stock. I thought it was out of stock. That's other. Like, you will know. Do the same thing. What was fresh? Now, I haven't told you this, but this is usually something that you do after every day of testing. you would do a quick debrief and say, what have we found today? And you start making notes because it will help you. Because there's notion of time, right? It's very close to what has just happened. And then all the participants, this is a very collaborative effort at this point, but maybe you want to do a little bit of your own. And then you're going to come and debrief as a team. A client, you would actually do some of that with a client as well. You would probably say, so what has happened? What did we find? What did happen? Here's a challenge. The client may have actually have seen maybe 2 sessions, but you've seen 10. And you'll say, you know what you've seen in a 10 session actually did not really happen in the other session. But that's okay. You just make note of it. You don't want to argue. You don't want to debate. You don't want to remove things at this point. It's probably too early to remove. And then you may want to ask everybody to see what are my top 5 findings. Maybe between now and tomorrow, everybody says, what do I think the top 5 findings are? And then tomorrow you can do. Then you can repeat this process for top negative. What were the top good things, bad things as well? And you can discuss this as a team. And then you can go back to the scenario and the test scenario. And so let's go back to that screen. What do we remember what has happened? Whatever way this. You cannot give me a report that says the web was perfectly fine and nothing has happened. Like, that would be not acceptable. I know that something have happened, even if it's just a report positive, but we cannot say that there was nothing has really happened. Impossible. That would be impossible. So not an option. Then you can say what was positive, what was negative, and then when they talk about the bottom-up approach is maybe to look at each of the screen and then think about participant screen at that point. And then you can go to participant 1 in your notes, participant 2 in your notes if you want. But you can start screen myself what I remember. Then you go and say, have we missed a participant by participant by participant? You can use Miro, you can do whiteboard, you can do sticky notes, you can do anything that you want. If it helps you. But as I said, one of the reading tells about the rainbow. The rainbow is the Excel sheet, color coding for each of the participants, and it goes very, very detailed. And let me just show you quickly what the rainbow is. But please go through the deck on your own too as well to get some tips. Here's the rainbow. I've never used the rainbow, but it talks about I think I put a link to the rainbow. Where's the rainbow? So this is a rainbow sheet. An example of a rainbow sheet that you could and then you can have a list of items that has happened, or things that have happened, and you can say it has happened to participant or has not happened. That is one way that you can do too. Then you get a sense of frequency and how often something has happened. So of course, there's a notion of is something isolated? Did something happen once or twice, or it was kind of consistent? Remember, we're not in this to do quantitative data. This is qualitative. But we do know that if something has happened to 3 and 4 people consistently, then it's a challenge, it's an issue, it's observation. They're not reporting to you. You didn't say, tell me and think and what you think about this. They actually were doing and not being able to. What app did you guys use in the industry often for this type of work? I've used Word. Myself, I use Words. I use Words from a report. I use Words for this data. I think I've used sticky notes, like the real sticky notes as well. I've used whiteboard. So whiteboard, sticky notes in offices. But you could do the same. You could use words. You could use sticky notes. You can use sticky notes at home and then move on to Miro. But I would say it's probably easier. Maybe you guys want to move to Miro. Do a wall on Miro. I'll do a collaborative wall on Miro if you want. And then you can use sticky notes and start saying, here's what I found. So you guys can add on, and then you feel you don't have to repeat to. But you have to be careful that not one person is just leading the conversation. That would be another option as well. So it's 1:25, 26, and I think we have until 1:25. So unfortunately, This was our short 50-minute session for the day. But if you could go through the material and then take what you feel would actually be helping you to do this research. But there's no quick, easy way to do it. And tomorrow you'll have the 2 hours to do just that, to do your sessions, and then work on the summary, and then work on the report, and we can talk more about what the report is. But right now, let's focus on data, trying to make sense of data. The report will be easy. You still need to go through it's a very important phase, and you'll be surprised to see how something will surface as well. Are there any questions or any comments? Tomorrow will be all about this. Okay, great. So enjoy your afternoon, and please go through the material if you can, and then tomorrow we'll see you, and then we'll work on the lab. Thank you, everybody.